The world is holding its breath, caught in a moment of profound uncertainty. The geopolitical chessboard is set, and the next move could determine the fate of nations. All eyes are fixed on the Middle East, a region simmering with decades of unresolved tensions. After US and Israeli airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites, a move designed to cripple their atomic ambitions, the region has been plunged into an even deeper state of turmoil. The strikes, precise and calculated, have ignited a firestorm of anger and resentment. Tehran retaliates with a barrage of missiles aimed at the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, a critical hub for US military operations in the region. While the missiles were intercepted by advanced defense systems, the message is clear and unmistakable. Iran won't back down and is prepared to defend its interests with force. This act of defiance has sent shockwaves across the globe. Tensions are at a breaking point, threatening a wider conflict that could engulf the entire region. Military buildups are escalating, and the risk of miscalculation grows with each passing day. Protests erupt in the streets, reflecting the deep divisions within Iranian society. This escalating conflict could destabilize the region and trigger a global economic crisis. Stock markets are plummeting, and oil prices are soaring as investors brace for the worst. The ripple effects of this crisis are being felt around the world. Iran's leaders now threaten to close the Strait of Hormuz, a strategic waterway through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes. This is a red line that, if crossed, could have catastrophic consequences. Closing the Strait of Hormuz would effectively shut down the world's energy lifeline, sending immediate and devastating shockwaves through global markets. The consequences would be felt in every corner of the globe, impacting everything from transportation to manufacturing. President Trump calls for de-escalation, urging all parties to exercise restraint and seek a peaceful resolution. However, the risk of miscalculation remains dangerously high, and the path to de-escalation is fraught with obstacles. Years of failed diplomacy and deep mistrust have led to this perilous moment. The collapse of the Iran nuclear deal and the subsequent imposition of sanctions have only exacerbated tensions, pushing the region closer to the brink. The missile attack was a calculated warning, a demonstration of force intended to deter further aggression without triggering an all-out war. But the line between deterrence and escalation is razor-thin, and the danger of a full-scale conflict looms large. The world anxiously watches, knowing that a single misstep, a single act of aggression, could plunge us into a global crisis with unimaginable consequences. The stakes have never been higher. The Strait of Hormuz. This vital waterway, a strategic artery of global commerce, holds immense significance in the world's energy landscape. Its geographical location and the sheer volume of traffic it handles make it a focal point of international attention. At its narrowest point, it's just 21 miles wide. This seemingly small distance belies the enormous importance of this channel. It connects the oil-rich Persian Gulf to the rest of the world, acting as the primary gateway for a substantial portion of the world's energy resources. The countries surrounding the Persian Gulf hold some of the largest oil reserves on the planet, making this waterway indispensable. Every day, an astounding 20 million barrels of oil transit through the strait. This represents a significant percentage of the global oil supply, highlighting the strait's critical role in meeting the world's energy demands. And crucially, a third of the global liquefied natural gas supply also makes its way through this strategic choke point. This further underscores the strait's importance, not just for oil, but for the broader energy market. An immense amount of maritime traffic passes through this narrow channel daily, making it one of the busiest and most strategically important waterways in the world. The sheer volume of vessels navigating these waters requires careful management and constant vigilance. Iran's geographical position grants it significant control over the strait, giving it immense leverage in regional and global affairs. Its proximity to the waterway allows it to monitor and potentially influence the passage of vessels. Consequently, any disruption to traffic through the strait, whether intentional or accidental, would have immediate and severe consequences for global energy markets and the world economy. Oil prices would likely surge, and economic instability could follow. History serves as a stark reminder of its vulnerability. The region has witnessed conflicts that directly impacted the strait's operations. During the Iran-Iraq tanker war in the 1980s, attacks on shipping became commonplace, threatening the global oil supply and causing significant economic disruption. This period highlighted the fragility of the strait and its susceptibility to geopolitical tensions. Today, Iran possesses a diverse arsenal, including speedboats, which could be used to harass or disrupt shipping. Sophisticated anti-ship missiles pose a significant threat to vessels transiting the strait, and naval mines could be deployed to block or damage ships, further disrupting the flow of traffic. This necessitates a constant state of alert for the U.S. Navy and its allies, who patrol the area to ensure freedom of navigation. While pipelines offer a potential alternative route for some oil exports, they provide only a partial workaround due to capacity limitations and geographical constraints. The vast majority of oil and gas still relies on maritime transport, making the Strait of Hormuz indispensable. The stability of the world's energy system is inextricably linked to the safe and unimpeded passage of tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption could have far-reaching consequences. That's precisely why Iran's threats to close or disrupt the strait are so alarming to the international community. The world's eyes remain fixed on this critical choke point, with governments and energy companies closely monitoring the situation. Everyone understands that its closure could trigger a global energy crisis and potentially lead to widespread economic chaos. The stakes are incredibly high. If Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices would skyrocket overnight. Even rumors of a blockade have already sent prices soaring. A full closure could push oil above $110 a barrel, triggering global inflation and recession. Energy costs would ripple through every industry, hitting consumers and businesses worldwide. Developing nations would suffer most, risking social unrest and instability. Natural gas supplies would also be choked, especially for Europe and Asia. Financial markets would plunge, and global supply chains would grind to a halt. The closure of this single waterway could unleash an economic crisis not seen in decades. The world's defenses against an oil shock are limited. Strategic petroleum reserves can cushion the blow, but only for a few months. The US and allies could release millions of barrels, but reserves are finite. Spare production capacity in Saudi Arabia and the UAE offers some relief, but can't replace the 20 million barrels lost if Hormuz closes. Pipelines bypassing the strait have limited capacity. If the crisis drags on, reserves will run dry and spare capacity will fall short. The world would be left exposed to a crippling energy shortage. The hard truth, there's no substitute for the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery for global oil supply, finds itself at the heart of geopolitical tensions. Would Iran really close the Strait of Hormuz? It's a question that sends shivers down the spines of energy markets and policymakers alike. The implications of such a move are far-reaching and potentially catastrophic for the global economy. It's a risky move, one that could provoke massive US retaliation. The United States has repeatedly stated its commitment to ensuring the free flow of navigation through the strait, and any attempt to close it would be met with a swift and decisive response. The presence of a strong US naval fleet in the region serves as a constant reminder of this commitment, and devastate Iran's own economy. An already struggling economy, battered by sanctions and internal challenges, would be pushed to the brink of collapse. The consequences for the Iranian people would be dire, further fueling discontent and instability within the country. Iran relies on oil exports, even under sanctions, as a vital source of revenue, and a blockade would cut off its own lifeline, crippling its ability to sustain itself economically. The impact would be felt across all sectors, from government finances to the livelihoods of ordinary citizens. China, a key customer, would pressure Tehran to keep the strait open. Beijing's dependence on Iranian oil gives it significant leverage in this situation, and it would undoubtedly use its influence to prevent any disruption to its energy supplies. The threat itself is Iran's real weapon: deterrence and leverage, not actual closure. By keeping the possibility of closure on the table, Iran seeks to extract concessions and influence the behavior of other actors in the region and beyond. More likely, Iran would harass shipping inspections, creating delays and uncertainty for commercial vessels. Mines posing a constant threat to navigation and requiring extensive countermeasures. And deniable attacks to disrupt trade and raise costs, making insurance premiums skyrocket and discouraging companies from operating in the region. This shadow war keeps the world on edge, inflicting pain without crossing the line into open conflict. It's a delicate balancing act, with both sides seeking to maximize their leverage without triggering a full-blown war. Iran's goal forced the world to negotiate on its terms, seeking relief from sanctions and a greater role in regional affairs. The world watches for subtle escalation, not a dramatic blockade, as the key indicator of Iran's intentions and the potential for a wider conflict. The stakes are high, and the consequences of miscalculation could be devastating. The crisis is a global chess match. For the US, keeping Hormuz open is a top priority. The Fifth Fleet stands ready. Regional powers like Saudi Arabia and the UAE would back US action, as their economies depend on the strait. Israel, already involved, sees an opportunity to isolate Iran. China and Russia want stability. China for oil, Russia for market control, but both urge restraint. Europe is caught in the middle, supporting security, but pushing for diplomacy. The crisis exposes deep divisions and the limits of international influence. The world's response will determine if this crisis is contained or spirals out of control. This crisis will reshape global energy policy for years. The world's vulnerability to a single choke point will accelerate the shift to renewables and energy diversification. Nations will invest in new pipelines, alternative suppliers, and even reconsider nuclear power. The architecture of global energy will be re-examined for resilience. What's at stake is more than oil. It's economic stability and global security. The standoff is a warning. Regional conflicts can spark worldwide crises. Only a mix of deterrence and diplomacy can prevent disaster. For now, the world waits, hoping for a peaceful resolution.